Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population and with little or no meaningful engagement leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Good evening and welcome to Waste Prime Time. My name is Chioma Kalu. Now, Nigeria's political clock may be ticking faster than expected as the National Assembly has proposed November 2026 as a date for the 2027 general elections, signaling a major shift from the traditional February schedule. Now, according to the proposal, the idea is to allow enough time for transition, reduce electoral tensions, and ensure early resolutions of disputes before May 29, 2027, which is the constitutionally mandated handover date. Now, this move is part of the ongoing amendment of, amendment to the Electoral Act of 2022, which lawmakers say is meant to enhance credibility, improve logistics, and strengthen the overall electoral process. But beyond the technical adjustments lies a bigger question. Is Nigeria ready for such an early, election timeline? Would the shift enhance electoral integrity, or could it expose fresh political and logistical risks that we have as a nation? So, you see, tonight we want to find out. We're asking, amongst all of these questions, one that really stands out for me is this move a head start, or is it a political shortcut? And what does it mean for democracy? Now, remember, Ways is all about you, as you are the why in Ways. So be a part of the conversation every single day and add your voice to the discussions. Head on now to YouTube at Official Upgrade TV and, subscribe. Like, also share, and invite your friends and family to the show right now. When I open my phone lines, I'd really, really love to hear your insights, your take, your opinion on this topic. And as always, please ponder on the quote for today. It says, democracy is not just about voting. It's about a commitment to the process, even when it's inconvenient. And this was said by former President of the United States of America, Barack Obama. We'll go into this much later. But first, I'll go on a short break. And when I come back, I'll take you through the news stories that caught my eye today in the newspapers of the day. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. These are the stories that caught my interest today. The very first one is something about our finance minister, Wale Edun, and it says, ailing finance minister flown abroad for treatment. Now, the story says the Minister of Finance and coordinating Minister of Economy, Wale Edun, has traveled to the United Kingdom to seek medical attention. Multiple sources close to the development confirmed on Tuesday morning. Now, the report first published by the Western Post was confirmed by a source who had earlier reported that the minister might seek medical attention abroad if the needs arises. Now, the source confirmed on Tuesday that the decision had now been made, saying it's true, he has left already. Wale Edun, he said, left Abuja for Lagos on Monday night via a commercial flight. He later departed for London aboard a British Airways flight on the same night. Now, until his departure, the president's officials, of course, who spoke to the correspondents on Sunday, had maintained that Edun was recuperating at his Abuja residence under the care of Nigerian doctors. The sources said the minister had taken ill in recent days, but dismissed earlier rumors that he had suffered a stroke or was incapacitated. One senior government official who spoke on conditions of anonymity for lack of authorization to speak to press told the Punch newspapers that Edun's condition was being monitored closely. Yes, he said, he's indisposed, he's sick, which is a bit serious, but it's not a stroke. As I'm talking to you, he's in his house, he's not been flown anywhere. That's what the source said on Sunday evening. Now, the official, however, added that the doctors might recommend foreign medical care if necessary. You know, a decision that has now been made. I mean, you know, a couple of days ago, right, there was this rumor that said, oh, the president is about to replace Wale Edun because he's really ill. And like we're seeing now, some people said, oh, he suffered a stroke. And then the presidency came out to debunk that and said, oh, no, that he's really sick. But, I mean, I think he's 64, every advanced person in that age bracket, of course, once in a while, you're expected to be under the weather, right? But now we're hearing that he's been flown abroad, and which means it's a bit serious. But now that it brings me to the fact that it is still shameful that in 2025 we have our government officials, flying abroad for medical attention when we are literally begging them to fix the healthcare sector in Nigeria. It's such a shame. Now you've flown abroad because, I mean, I sympathize with you that you're really ill. Nobody should be ill at all. It's not a fun place to be. But now you've moved abroad because you can afford it and because you don't trust Nigeria's healthcare system. Something you people are supposed to fix. I understand you're the finance minister. It doesn't really concern you like that. But, it touches everybody, right? A poor man that is as ill as you are can't afford to do that. In fact, can't afford to go to a private hospital since the government hospitals will require a lot of things, which will still boil down to money. So, not my condolences, but I sympathize with you that you're feeling ill, and I hope that you recuperate faster and come back to your duties. Moving on to my second story of interest. It says, resident doctors renew call for sacked Kogi doctors' reinstatement. Now, the story says the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors has renewed its call on the federal government to reinstate 5 doctors sacked by the management of Federal Teaching Hospital Lokoja in Kogi State. Now, the report states that the doctors were allegedly dismissed in October 2024, May, and August 2025 by the FTHL management, led by former Chief Medical Director Dr. Olatunde Alabi, for their involvement in union activities against the hospital management. Now, addressing a press conference in Lokoja on Tuesday, NARD President Mohammed Suleiman said the association is saying enough is enough as the sacked doctors have been out of work for over a year. That's really sad. Now, Suleiman recalled that NARD, during its recent 45th annual general meeting, gave the federal government a 30-day ultimatum to meet a series of outstanding welfare and policy demands affecting its members. Now, he said, today is the 18th day of the 30-day ultimatum that NARD gave to the federal government to meet our demands, among which is the reinstatement of 5 doctors sacked at FTH Lokoja. Now, NAT's demands include reinstatement of the sacked doctors, payment of unpaid promotion, and salary arrears dating back to 5 years unpaid 25% and 35% increment and entitlement. Now, he also noted that Nigeria is facing a crisis in the health sector with a ratio of 1 doctor Listen to this. With a ratio of one doctor servicing over 9,000 Nigerians compared to the standard ratio of one doctor to 600 people. I don't even know how I place these two stories side by side. But we're seeing what's going on. Doctors are protesting. You know, you're sacking doctors because, oh, they joined unions that maybe don't align with their hospital management and all of that. Why would there not be brain drain in the country? You have one doctor servicing 9,000 Nigerians. And you expect that doctor not to burn out. You see, you don't even trust the system. That's why you're flying abroad to get medical care. I mean, I can't emphasize this enough. These people are essential workers. Even if you don't invest in many other things, you need these people to be working. You need these people to be active, to love their jobs, because poor Nigerians can't afford to go abroad like you guys do. How can one doctor service 9,000 Nigerians? I mean, no human should do that. No human should do that. So fix this. You can always run ahead, run abroad and get health care. But the people you're supposed to be serving, I've repeatedly said it, this is a servant leadership that you people have been called to. Help them. They can't afford to do that. They should be able to rely on the country and the leaders that they supposedly elected to power. Let's do the right things for once in this country. Let's stop all of these things. Well, I don't want to get angry tonight. Let's move over to the last story of interest I have. It says, House summons Cardoso. Cardoso is CBN governor. Over excessive bank charges. Launches probe into customer exploitation. Now, the story says, the House of Representatives have summoned the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Olayemi Cardoso, to explain claims of arbitrary and excessive fees being charged by commercial banks to the customers across Nigeria. Now, this decision was made following a motion presented by Honorable Mokhtar Shagaya, who represents the Ilorin West Asa Federal Constituency, during the House plenary session. In his address, Shagaya raised the alarm over the growing number of complaints from Nigerians regarding continuous and unclear deductions from their bank accounts, even though there are existing CBN regulations meant to control these bank charges. Now, he pointed out that the citizens were being burdened with multiple charges, including those for SMS alerts, card maintenance, account maintenance, interbank transfers, stamp duties. They're just too numerous to mention, you know. And Shagaya said, although banks are supposed to offer financial services at a reasonable cost, many customers consistently face repeated and unjustified deductions in clear violation of CBN's rules intended to prevent such practices. He further cautioned that ongoing exploitation of customers by banks could lead to a breakdown in public confidence in the banking system, hinder financial inclusion, and jeopardize the CBN's broader objective of increasing access to financial services. Now, see, I'm glad that this is happening, because for each time you open your phone, in fact, for every transfer you make, there is a debit for this, card maintenance. The list keeps going on and on and on. And sometimes the money is, they're taking as much as 600 naira for something you can't even explain. And you're wondering, the little money you're trying to manage. And, you know, for some people, we don't get to notice the deductions, and that's what makes it even very sad. You don't get to notice the deductions until later your account is not adding up, and you're beginning to wonder. It's until you go to your statement of account, that's when you realize, oh, they took this. It doesn't make sense. You're jeopardizing the whole idea of the banking system. You're supposed to help these customers, not extort them, because that's how I see it. You're extorting them. Right? So let's do better. Every sector in Nigeria needs an overhaul. We need a cleaning up. We need to do better. If it's to change leadership, change it. Right? The people that elected you people want to live life with ease. Like I said, you people can tell us Nigeria is doing good on paper, and the reality you're seeing is totally different from the reality of common Nigerians. It doesn't work like that. All right, so that's all the story that caught my eye today. I don't want to say this evening because it's just been the whole of the day. So we'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll dive into our topic for tonight. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we will analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
For staying tuned. If you're just joining us tonight, we're talking about the proposal, right? The real motives behind the 2026 election proposal. They want to move the 2027 election to 2026 November. And we're asking, could you see this as political timing or maybe a tactic or another political tactic, right? And let me hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation by sending me an SMS or WhatsApp to 0818-038-4663. My phone lines are open now. You can also call me on 070-2500-7749 and also on 0701-4242-420. Let's hear what you have to say. Now, you see, the proposal by the National Assembly, it has sparked mixed reactions. Some political observers describe it as a progressive step, that will give INEC more time to handle disputes and, improve logistics. Other people say it's a strategic move that could favor incumbents, shorten campaign windows, and pressure smaller parties that rely on longer mobilization time. Now, critics also said that early elections could strain the electoral calendar, with off-season elections, still taking place across several states. Now, this whole conversation I'm not going to be doing this by myself. So to help us unpack these issues, joining me tonight is Nick Agule, a public affairs analyst, and he'll be helping us, tear down this brick by brick. Good evening, sir, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Good evening, and happy to be here. Thank you for welcoming me on the show.
Amazing. Thank you. So let's have your general take on this proposal, right? Is the National Assembly's November 2026 date a reform-driven move? Everything is about reform for this administration now. Or is it a political calculation? What is it for you, sir?
Thank you very much. The problem in Nigeria now is that we have lost trust and faith in the political class.
Right.
So whatever move they make, we have to view it with suspicion.
Right.
Until we are proven otherwise, or is proven otherwise. So this move on the surface is what we have been asking for. But what is the motive behind the move is what we don't know.
Right.
Because we are dealing with a political class that has taken us for a ride many times in the past. So how do I say it's a good move on the surface? It is because we have been conducting elections too close to handover in such a way that the electoral cases are not yet exhausted when people are sworn in, that we have what we call off-cycle elections. That word off-cycle elections was birthed by this problem. So if, as the National Assembly is prescribing now, that we hold elections at least in enough time to allow the court cases to be exhausted, so that who is taking the oath of office is the one that won at the ballot and as affirmed by the court. That way, we are no longer going to have an off-cycle election. Because let's look at it this way. We have actually been lucky. We've been lucky that we have had elections 7 times since the advent of this Fourth Republic. And in these 7 times, each time presented a risk for the presidential election to become an off-cycle election. If the Supreme Court had, within these 7 electoral cycles, removed a president who was sworn in before the judgment was pronounced, we would have had an off-cycle election of the presidential election. And if that be the case, Nigeria will probably set the record as the only country in the world where such a thing is happening. As the only country in the world where, when citizens go to the general elections, they are not electing a president or a leader of the country, because the presidential election has gone off cycle. Apart from that, when people get sworn in into office, they immediately come across the resources of office. Like a state governor now has access to billions of naira. A president has access to trillions of naira. Whilst they are still fighting their cases in court. There is nothing stopping them from applying these resources that they have now got access to fight the electoral outcomes. That is the second bit. The third bit, of course, is the power of incumbency. Power of incumbency is that, imagine a Supreme Court that decides that a president who is already sworn in and is in office be removed from office because his election was overturned. It will have to take a Supreme Court that is ultra courageous to be able to make such a determination. Even governorship elections, especially like if you look at the 2023 governorship elections, no governor was removed. Absolutely none. Every one of them were returned. And this is power of incumbency playing out. So it actually pays us to have these elections in a way that we are no longer going to have off-cycle elections, because having off-cycle elections means we are going to spend a lot of money, more money on conducting elections. So if you look at a state like Anambra now, Anambra is going to have an off-cycle election next month in November.
Right.
But back in February and March 2023, we spent money in Anambra to conduct elections. So the election to the presidential election and the State House of Assembly, senatorial, and House of Rep elections were conducted in Anambra, but the governorship election was not conducted. Now we have to go back and spend another fresh round of money. An equal sum of money will be spent to secure all the local governments in Anambra and then carry ballot boxes out and all of that for just the governorship election, making it double expenditure for us, right? So there is an advantage in having an off-cycle election in the sense that INEC now has more time, more resources to commit to one state. So they will be able to run that election properly as compared to if they were running elections in 36 states and the FCT. If you go to the United States of America, they have what they call midterm elections for the House of Rep. They stay in office for 2 years, and then they do an election. So when a president is sworn in, 2 years after that president's office, half of the House of Reps members in the US Congress, we have to go for elections. And when they go to elections, that is what they even use to check the thermometer of the people, whether they like the presidency of that president or they don't like it.
Okay,
But in our
Mr.
own
Gule,
case, this
let me
move
come
by
in.
the national...
I have a question, please. So, because I'm glad you mentioned the off-cycle elections. I was going to come there, right? So let's use Anambra for example. Anambra has their governorship election next month, being November. So let's say this proposal, we eventually agree to it and it's been passed into law and all that. So our election is November 2026. How do we align these off-cycle elections, these states that have off-cycle elections, you know, I think Ondo and some of them, Bayelsa, some of them, right? How do we align them to now, like you said, you talked about cutting down costs. How do we now merge everything so that if we're doing election in 2026 November, both governorship, every state, how do we do that? How do we cut that cost? Because now, if Anambra elects a governor in November this year, we don't expect that governor to serve 1 year, and then we have another election in November 2026. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes.
Okay.
I understand. So the questions can be answered in two ways.
All right.
The first way is, what will happen if the constitution does not change?
Okay.
And then the second way is, what will happen if the constitution changes?
Okay.
So if the constitution does not change, that means the constitution of Nigeria remains what it is. The Anambra governor that will be elected in November will take office in, I think, February or March of 2026. That governor will still be in office in 2027 when we are going to the general elections. Right? So the off-cycle states, and you name them, I think there are about 8 of them.
Yeah.
The off-cycle states, there are about 8 of them. I know Ekiti is one of them. Oshun is one of them.
I think Ondo is one of them as well.
Bayelsa is the other one. Exactly. So there are these off-cycle states that they will continue to be off-cycle states perpetually without a constitutional change. The only advantage we are going to get is that there will not be any new off-cycle states added to the current tally that we have. Right?
Okay.
If these November elections hold, that means there will no more be any opportunity for adding off-cycle states to the ones that we already have. That will be the advantage. Plus the advantage that the people are not in office to use the power of incumbency and use state resources to prosecute the electoral matters. They will not be in office. So until the court say, yes, it's you, before they can go into office. So that will be the advantage of getting that. But if there is a constitutional change, the constitutional change can actually now merge the off-cycle states into the main general election by simply extending the tenure of the governors, for instance. So if it will just say you are a governor and you are a governor till when the next general election happens, you have to stand for election again. So a constitutional change can make that happen. But without a constitutional change, it will just be what I have said before.
Okay. All right. So let's look at the angle of, they said it's going to help us solve every, court case prior to the May 29 when the handover is going to happen, right? That's why they're trying to bring this to November 2026. But we still have court cases from the general election of 2023. This is 2 years, right? What makes us think that 6 months between November and May is 6 months, right? What makes us think that 6 months is going to be enough to, formalize, agree? The judges will say, oh, uphold this election or don't oppose it, uphold it. Why do we think that we'll be able to achieve that? Do you think it's possible? Do you think INEC has that power to, solve whatever the problem is in 6 months?
I'm not sure that we still have electoral cases from 2023 coming now. If
We
there
do. We
are, there
do.
must be pre-election cases. The reason why I say that is that the electoral law of 2022, as amended, actually fixed a deadline for the conclusion of electoral cases.
Yeah.
There is a specific number of days for the case to move from the tribunal, which is the court of first instance, to the appeal court, to the Supreme Court, which is for governorship elections. And for presidential elections, it starts at the appeal court and goes to the Supreme Court. And then for National Assembly and State Assembly elections, it starts from the tribunal and ends at the appeal court. So there are specific days that have now been given to the judiciary, and they have to exhaust the cases within that period. And I think if I can get it right, I think it's 6 months in total.
Yes.
From the beginning of the case to the Supreme Court deciding. So that aspect has already been dealt with by the electoral law 2022. So there will not be any cases that will go beyond that 6-month window that we're talking about. And so if the INEC therefore moves the conduct of the election forward to November, then the electoral timetable will align with that judicial timetable, such that at the end of the day, who takes oath of office is the person that has been affirmed both at the polls and at the court, if the matter should go to court.
All right. So what are the possible potential constitutional or logistical risk with holding these elections this early? What risk do we stand to face?
Yeah, so the potential constitutional matters, in fact, I'm even thinking that what the electoral law speaks of right now is that it gives an upper limit to INEC, meaning it tells INEC that you must conduct a presidential election not less than so days to the end of the tenure of the incumbent. It doesn't actually tie INEC's hands to when to run the election earlier. So perhaps INEC has already even got the constitutional backing to draw out the electoral timetable in such a way that it gives enough room for all electoral cases to be decided before candidates are finally sworn in. But if the National Assembly believes that they will need to tighten that and make it very specific, that is, make a specific provision which ties INEC's hands that you must electoral timetable that gives room cases to be decided, the INEC will not have a choice than to follow that timetable, right? Because right now, they have been given the free will. Their hands are tied in terms of the number of days left before the tenure ends, but their hands are not tied as to they conducting the elections earlier for cases to be decided. So if that is what the National Assembly is thinking about, then they can tie INEC's hands to it. And when you talk about logistical challenges, I don't think the logistical challenges will be different from the current elections that INEC is conducting. So instead of INEC conducting election in March, when handover is in May, instead of they conducting election in March 2027, when handover is in May, they conduct the election in November 2026, and handover is in May. I can see where the logistical challenges will come from. It's going to take the same effort for them to do that. The only thing, of course, is that INEC will now know that they need to plan much earlier, that the elections will no longer be in 2027, they will be in late 2026. So their preparation have to be fast-tracked to ensure that they are able to conduct that elections as the National Assembly will prescribe in the new law that is being developed.
Okay. Mr. Agule, we'll go on a short break, and when we return, we'll continue the conversation. Please stay with us. All right, you're welcome back. We're still talking about the proposal by the National Assembly to move our general elections from 2027 to November 2026. And we're asking, is this a political tactic or this is something that is necessary for the nation? And I have a public affairs analyst speaking to me, Mr. Nick Agule. Mr. Agule, are you still with us? Mr. Agule?
Yes, I'm still here.
Oh,
Thank you.
great! Thank you so much. So let's move to governance.
Yes, I'm still
okay.
here.
So, I mean, this present administration they've been in power for 2 years plus, right? And we still have some issues with governance. We as a nation, in fact, we have more issues to deal with: security, our economy, the education, the healthcare. I mean, everything seemed to be worsening, right? And now some Nigerians are afraid that these politicians Nigerians are afraid that they are more focused on these elections than proper and actual governance. So do you think this timeline shift would worsen that perception that Nigerians already have?
Well, so two things.
Okay.
The first is that, like I earlier said, we have been taken for a ride for far too long by our leaders. And we are justified to take with a pinch of salt anything that they are putting on the table for us.
Yeah.
Because although it might look to our advantage on the surface, there might be ulterior motives behind the scene which we are not aware of, or we are being led to the slaughter without our knowledge. So that's why I say that like this current move about altering the electoral timetable to ensure that we conduct election in the prior year before the handover is in the following year, until we can actually see that the National Assembly and the executive who will eventually sign this bill into law are actually being genuine to us in their outlook. We cannot accept on the face value that they mean well for us, because we have burnt our fingers several times in the past trusting them. So for us, we are keeping a keen and watchful eyes on the process to see that this process means well for us. And now, coming to governance, yes, governance has been a mixed bag since 2023 when this new government came on board, especially the federal government. The federal government launched a suite of reforms. And all of the reforms that they did, whether it is the fuel subsidy removal, is the forest unification, and things like that, tax reforms, they are really good. They are good reforms. They were needed. We needed them because there was a lot of criminality with fuel subsidy, a lot of criminality with multiple exchange rate markets and things like that. But you see, a reform must be holistic. A reform cannot be only one way. So when you do a reform, you must back up that reform with further action. The problem is that the government did the first half, but they are not playing anything in the second half. So in the second half, we are losing, and Nigerians have been thrown under the bus. They are groaning under the heavy cost of living, and there are actions that government should have taken to ameliorate the cost of living, to make it easier for people to bear this. And those actions are not being taken. Yet, government is promising us that we should be patient, that things are going to get better. You see, we cannot have things get better without the government taking certain actions.
That's right.
So I can give specific examples. Let me take fuel subsidy removal, for instance. When government removed the fuel subsidy, it was a good thing because a lot of people were making trillions of naira off the fuel subsidy scandal. Now, that food has been removed from their mouth. But what that meant immediately was that the price of petrol now shot up from less than 200 naira to like 1,000 naira. So what is government now supposed to have done to now bring succor to that situation? Government was not supposed to immediately, with the same speed at which they removed the subsidy, fix our refineries. So if they have fixed our refineries within these last 2 years, if they have got at least one refinery back on stream or two, the refinery will now be pushing products into the market, and we'll be buying products cheaper than we are buying now. Because that price it can define the. We now have impact is that the dollar now rose in price at the official window from about 460 to 1,500 naira today. So what should government have done? It then means that because we are an import-dependent economy, as we continue to import, we are not importing at much higher prices than before. So government should have now been rigorously, with the same speed at which they unify the market, have been engaging in import substitution. An import substitution is a situation where government policy has made it such that we are now buying what we are producing locally. That shields us away from the dollar, totally shields us away from the dollar, right? So we can argue that this is not what government can accomplish in 2 years. It's true, but government needed to have by now taken steps to accomplish it. Where are those steps? Number one step is power supply. You need power supply to be able to industrialize Nigeria, to be able to bring the factories back, to be able to get businesses working, so that Nigeria can now start enjoying what is produced locally in Nigeria, and we will now just ignore the dollar. We don't need the dollar to bring anything in, so no matter the cost of the dollar, we will be insulated. What has government done about power supply? Absolutely nothing, right? We are still doing 5,000, 3,000, 4,000 megawatts. There are no projects that are in the pipeline to boost power supply as we speak today. The same thing with agriculture. Food is expensive because we're still importing the food at high dollar cost. You see that farmers are being driven out of their farms, even as we speak today. Whereas government should by now have been driving bandits out of farms so that they can open the farms for farmers to start producing enough food. If farmers are producing food for us, we don't need the dollar to import wheat from Ukraine or import vegetables from the US or anything like that. We'll be eating the food that we are growing. So this is what I'm trying to say, that government has done the first half of reforms. Government is now faltering in the second part of the reform. And that has left Nigerians poor and much poorer, because the father and the mother who need to feed their children, who need to transport their children, who need to pay school fees, medical costs, pay electricity bill, pay rent, and all that, they are not yet getting any benefit from these reforms, right? And government is promising, don't worry, to get better. How will it get better when the refineries are not yet there, when power supply is not there, when we don't have agriculture coming in there? This thing can't come to us by magic. So we are not seeing those actions. So that would be my summation of governance.
Yeah, okay. Well, still speaking on governance, right? I like that you mentioned these refineries, because let's take Port Harcourt refinery for an instance, right? With all the money that was pumped into that refinery, I think it's still short as we speak, because I think in May it was shut down for maintenance. That's what they told us. And as of June, it was still shut down. So I'm wondering, with all the money we spent on that refinery, we shouldn't be hearing, maintenance and all. So it still boils down to this governance thing we're talking about. They're not showing us what they are capable of in these 2 years going on 3 that they've been in power. So what's our guarantee that when we shorten electoral timeline is good, they're going to do better? But anyway, away from that, what safeguards do you think should be in place to ensure that, this kind of timeline change will strengthen democracy, not political manipulation?
So on the surface of it, the timeline change will strengthen democracy.
Okay.
Because this is what we have been asking for a long time. Swearing people into office whilst they are still fighting their electoral mandates at the court is a travesty. It's an affront on democracy. It's not supposed to be. That means somebody whose election is still being contested, you have already given him the oath of office. I mean, that shouldn't happen. I mean, it's an aberration. So we have been talking about this for a very long time, and nothing has been heard. So if the National Assembly on their own volition decide that they want to look at this, if, like I said, they are doing this thing with genuine intentions, then it is going to strengthen our democracy. It's going to cure the ills of swearing people in when they are still contesting the election. Like I mentioned them already before, it will solve off-cycle election. We will no longer have any more off-cycle elections. Number two, it will stop people from laying their hands on the public treasury whilst they are still fighting the electoral cases in court. It will stop the power of incumbency. It will stop governance that is not governance. Because, when somebody is in court, he's not sure whether he will continue as governor or president. During the time that he's in court, he's not really governing. You understand? Because he hasn't got the full mandate yet.
That's right.
He got the mandate at the post, but he hasn't got the mandate of the judiciary. So he's just carrying on and seeing. Will I be here? Will I not be here? We don't need that. We need people that once they take out of office, they hit the ground running, knowing that they have a 4-year mandate to govern. So that is all this will strengthen democracy. But the proviso is that the caveat I wanted to say is that the National Assembly needs to be dealing honestly with us.
And that's, I don't know. I want to say that's something that we rarely see, right? Because it's just as though the National Assembly just keeps okaying whatever is thrown at them, and they're supposed to, have their own mind. But anyway, finally, before we let you go tonight, sir, what would you say to the Nigerian who is simply tired of this election debacle and want to see real governance instead of all of this endless politicking that we're seeing in Nigeria today?
Thank you very much for that question, and I think it's an important question.
Yeah.
Something that needs to be addressed. And I'm happy that you asked that question. What will I say to a Nigerian? I want to tell every Nigerian that is listening to us now, or who will listen to the clips when they are uploaded and things like that, to say that Nigeria belongs to all of us. Section 14, subsection 2A of the Nigerian Constitution states that sovereignty belongs to the people, and government derives its powers from that sovereignty. So we are the ones that make government. We are the ones that give government powers. It's not the government that is empowering or using that power against us. So as Nigerians, we must understand that Nigeria is our country, is our personal asset, as much as a car or a home or furniture are our personal assets. And we cannot sit and watch our personal asset being dealt with badly without us doing something about it. So instead of thinking in our minds that we want to japa, live going for ourselves and for our children and the generations to come after, I want to tell all Nigerians that there is no place in the world where good governance is given to the people on a platter of gold. Good governance is given to the people who ask for it, who demand for it, who push for it, who fight for it all day, arm in arm, leg in leg with the leaders, demanding that good governance, asking questions, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of religion, regardless of party politics. Nigeria, we are not yet there. We as citizens have to be part and parcel of this democracy. We are the fourth arm of government. You have the executive, legislature, and the judiciary. We, the citizens, are the fourth arm of government. We have our powers given to us in the Constitution of the Federal Republic. Right. I know that Nigerians have been wounded in the past, but we cannot use the wounds of the past to heal the present. To heal the present, we must have a new resolve to say that Nigeria belongs to us. We all must have something to do with getting Nigeria to work. Because it is only when Nigeria will work that we will enjoy Nigeria, our children will enjoy Nigeria, and the generations after us will enjoy Nigeria.
All right, that's it for us. Thank you so much, Mr. Nick Agule, Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you for your insights this evening, and we hope to bring you back for more conversations. Have a good evening, sir. Now, you see, elections are the heartbeat of democracy, but that heartbeat must be steady. It should not be rushed, right? The idea of an earlier election in 2026, it sounds like a reform, of course, but real reform really lies not just in changing the dates. It's in changing conduct. And a credible election is not about when it's held or how it's, it's about how it's held, whether every vote will count, whether the process is transparent, and whether the outcome unites rather than divide us as a nation. So as lawmakers debate the dates, Nigerians must keep their eyes on what truly matters, an election system that delivers trust, fairness, and accountability. Because in the end, democracy is not a race to the finish line. It's a journey that must be walked with integrity. And that's where we end our segment for today. If you missed our quote earlier, here it is. It says, democracy is not just about voting. It's about a commitment to the process, even when it's inconvenient. And this was said by Barack Obama, former USA president. My name is Chioma Kalu, and this has been Waste Prime Time. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.